I recently had a revelation about riding, or maybe I should say it was a revelation about where I ride. Maybe you have had a similar experience. Hi, everyone. Thanks for stopping by Bike Like a Dog. Be sure to like and subscribe before you leave today. In fact, you might want to do that now before you forget. I can wait. Dum, 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 dum. All done? Excellent. Okay, great. We can move on now. Short time ago, I found myself well, getting a little bored with riding. And I don't mean I was bored with riding per se, but it seemed like I was always going around the same roads over and over. First one way and then the other. Nothing was really changing except sometimes the trees had leaves on them and sometimes they didn't. I would watch videos from people who lived in Oregon or California, Ohio, maybe the Northeast. I'd see all of these beautiful videos of this landscape that would just be a wonder to ride through. Meanwhile, all I had was the same old, same old. Just riding down the same streets and roads. Oh, I might go down to Pine Mountain, Georgia, or up to Athens or something like that, but I was always just riding on the backcountry Georgia roads. Nothing spectacular. And then one day it hit me. Those folks that are riding in Oregon or California, Ohio, and other places are just riding the backcountry roads around them. What looked amazing and spectacular to me is their everyday ride. I started thinking back on a comment that someone had made on one of my earliest videos where they'd said what a beautiful ride it was. And I just dismissed it at the time because it was just riding down the road a few miles away, nothing unusual. But I've decided that no matter where you are, your everyday is something unusual and amazing to someone somewhere else. I live in an area where we truly have 4 seasons. Unlike South Florida, where, they have summer, 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 and summer. Sometimes they get spring. We have a hot summer, relatively cool spring and fall. And during the winter, we can get down we got down to 15 degrees this year. We get blooms and flowers earlier than those in the north. We have trees and flowers and grass that you won't find in Death Valley. No, I don't have snow-capped mountains, but I do have drives down long roads lined with pine trees and fields, rides by horse farms with Clydesdales, or cows, or sheep, or goats, alpacas, and the occasional donkeys. So I decided that instead of trying to find amazing places to ride, I need to ride where I am. Because where I am is amazing to somebody somewhere. If you take a look at this video, it's a ride I recently made up to Athens, Georgia. It was the first week of March, yet you can see some of the trees starting to blossom. Leaves are starting to bud out. For those in the northern part of the hemisphere, that's still weeks away. We will likely be in full bloom here before they start getting this type of budding and blossoming where they are. I started thinking about other things nearby. We actually have a state park that's only 25 minutes from my house, and I've never been there. There's another one about 45 minutes away that I have been to. In fact, I stayed at a yurt at that one time. Now, state parks in Georgia are not the same that you may find in other parts of the country. Typically, we don't have overland trails, ADV trails, and things like that in our state parks. No gravel or fire roads and stuff like that. Usually there will be a small lake, some hiking trails, creeks, maybe some equestrian trails, and a few campsites. But they are state parks because there is a beauty about the place that made someone stop and decide that it should be preserved for others to come see. So I decided that I'm going to see if I can go see a few state parks here and there as part of my riding. These won't be the only rides that I do, but there will be some worked in here and there. And I'm not going to try and do some sort of comprehensive state park review. I am not a hiker, and which means if you got to go on a hiking trail to get for a couple of miles to get whatever the main attraction is, I'm going to go, yeah, that's okay. I like to do my exploring on two wheels, preferably with a motor. But I can at least introduce some of these areas, and you could possibly do further research if they strike a chord with you. And I encourage others to do the same. Maybe you have fallen into the same trap I was in, where you just consider everything around you just everyday stuff. I might like to see your everyday stuff, especially if your everyday stuff includes parks nearby. You want to talk about someone who dismisses a beautiful place as kind of everyday? A friend of mine, his parents live at Callaway Gardens in Pine Mountain, Georgia. And I mean, they actually live in Callaway. He has to go into the park to visit them. Now, I can't imagine being surrounded by the beauty of that park every day. But for them, I'm sure there are times when they'll ride around and think, wow, I really love where I live. I know that I do that even where I live. But for the most part, they probably ride through a lot of it many times with hardly seeing it. I mean, they're on their way to the store or they're running some other errand or something. So there comes a point where they're kind of like, man, I would guess that if they have to go through some of the more touristy parts during the high season of the year, they're probably going, oh man, these tourists, we can't get anywhere, and not seeing the things that the tourists are actually there seeing, right? So sometimes we need to see the place we live through the eyes of a stranger. I've really been enjoying a video series by a couple whose channel is On the Road Adventures. I'll leave a link in the description to their channel. They're from the UK and they flew to Orlando. In Orlando, they purchased a couple of cheap used Himalayan 411s from the Facebook Marketplace and then fixed them up enough to take them across the United States to Los Angeles. First, they went on a tour down around Florida. They went down south through the Everglades and everything, came back up the west side of the state before they started heading west. But I find it so refreshing to see our country through their eyes. In many cases, seeing their reactions to places that I've been. We tend to forget a lot of things about where we live. But when you hear someone from somewhere else, like in this case from the UK, commenting on America, it helps me appreciate a lot of things about America that I may forget. Or it's not that I forget, but it's just not at the forefront of my mind. It becomes things that I don't really think about. But hearing them comment on them makes me think, yeah, they're right. That really is great. So I can now head out on the roads around me while trying to see them with new eyes. I can look for places that might be unusual for those not from this area. And I hope y'all will do the same. These are the videos that help us see the world, because we're never going to be able to get everywhere. We're never going to be able to ride all the places we'd like to ride. But if we share what's around us, then we give everyone an opportunity to at least see the world. Well, that's all for this time. I appreciate y'all spending the time to get this far in the video. Please remember to like and subscribe, and we'll be talking to you next time. So long, y'all.